A vibrant, energetic nurse who was working on her doctorate degree was gunned down on a rural Michigan roadway. Her parents and her boyfriend became the focus of the investigation as police claimed the murder was personal. Well, that's not the case anymore, and police are now asking for your help in solving Allie Brueger's murder. Hi, folks. Please take a moment, hit that like and subscribe button as we get started with this segment on Court TV with Vinnie Politan. We're exploring the unsolved murder of Alexandra. She went by Allie Brueger, who was gunned down as she jogged along a rural road in Rose Township, Michigan. A neighbor actually heard the gunshots and watched in horror as Allie stumbled into his yard with her arms held high above her head. She collapsed and died there, and her killer has never been found.
It's time to open up tonight's unsolved case file, and this is the part of the program where we ask for your help. These are cases that need a tip, need more information, so investigators can move the case forward and solve the case, and families can get a sense of justice that they all deserve. Tonight's story comes to us out of Michigan. Heather Catallo from our great affiliate WXYZ has the story of Allie Brueger.
It went pow, pow, pow. There's a girl laying in my yard that just got shot a couple times.
She got shot?
Yes. Laying face down, she's bleeding all over the place.
When gunshots tore through tiny Rose Township on a sunny Saturday in July of 2016, time stopped for Nikki and Franz Brueger.
It feels like it was yesterday. I think about it all the time.
You will never get any closure. It will never be the same.
The Bruegers' only child, Alexandra Brueger, who was known as Allie, was jogging on Fish Lake Road when someone murdered her. The route was part of her regular 10-mile run. Police say the killer or killers fired 4 shots, one of them fatally wounding the petite 31-year-old.
That's the thing that haunts me, is the terror that she must have felt when that person pointed that shotgun at her.
At the time, Michigan State Police said they believed they'd have the case solved quickly.
We're pretty confident that we'll be able to have this sewn up within a couple days for sure. It appears that she probably knew the individual that was responsible for this.
Detectives never ruled out the possibility the murder was random and say they've followed up on hundreds of tips. But for a while, some of the focus was on Allie's former boyfriend, who she had met while working as a nurse at Ascension Providence Hospital in Novi. He has denied killing her. And now Allie's parents are revealing information they've recently learned because they hope it can crack the case.
The lead detective for the case, as well as the first lieutenant in that division, both told me the wrong information is out there. Allie did not know her killer.
The Bruegers fear potential witnesses may have discounted details they noticed the day of the murder by assuming the killer was someone close to Allie.
The shooter was a stranger. Allie did not know who pulled the trigger. It really changes the scenario from what they said in 2016 to calm the public, in my estimation. It maligned her character. Because when that happened, people would say, oh, what kind of girl was this? Who did she hang around with? They didn't know she was an RN. They didn't know she never drank, didn't do drugs.
They're asking anyone who saw a vehicle speeding or driving erratically in the area of Fish Lake Road, South Fenton Road, or anywhere nearby on July 30th, 2016, to please come forward.
Was this a failed abduction? She wouldn't get in somebody's car. The only thing she could do was turn to run to escape. Or is this some human trafficking thing?
The Bruegers say they're also adding more money to the Crime Stoppers Reward Fund, bringing the total amount available to $20,000 for information that leads to an arrest.
So that's a $20,000 reward for this much information. And this is the length of someone's name. It's anonymous. Or this is a license plate number, or a color of a vehicle, or something that you heard in a bar somewhere.
Nikki and Franz are grateful to everyone who's added running shoes to the memorial for Allie in their yard, and they take comfort in Allie's rescued boxer Zeus. But what they really want are answers.
All you have to do is make a phone call. It's an anonymous tip. You know, if I have to beg, I'm begging you. Release yourself from it. Just pick up a phone.
Okay, folks, here's the number, 1-800-SPEAK-UP. That is the number for Crime Stoppers, 1-800-SPEAK-UP. That phone call can make all the difference for this family. Still with us, retired FBI Special Agent Bobby Chacon and retired police commander, host of the Profiling Evil podcast, Mike King. And joining us now by phone in Holly, Michigan is a special guest, Allie's mom, Nikki Brueger joins us. Nikki, thank you so much for joining us. We appreciate it. Our thoughts and deepest condolences to you, your husband, your entire family. How important is this for you? Because that's one thing I always want to establish for people who are watching now who may have that information. What would this mean to you if someone picked up that phone?
Well, thank you for having me on. Of course, we want justice for our daughter, and we want some kind of closure. So if someone has any kind of information, even if they think it's not important, we want them to call and give that tip. It's anonymous. Nobody has to know who you are. Just pick up the phone and say something. Release yourself from it, because frankly, when you hold on to something, as long as people have held on to things, it never goes away. You may not think about it all the time, but every now and then it seeps into your consciousness, and it's always there. The only way to get rid of it is to call and report it.
Nikki, what really struck me was the investigator that we saw in the piece, talking about initially, a couple days we'll solve this. It's 5 years later now. And is it your belief that kind of looking in the wrong direction initially?
Well, yeah. I mean, that's the PR person. That's their first Lieutenant Shaw, the PR person for the state police. And I believe that when he said that, when people heard that and he said that, people who might have had something to say, who might have had a tip, and who didn't want to get involved or who are like that anyways, just kind of said, oh, they're going to solve this right away. So I don't have to get involved. And it hurt the investigation. And now with this other information, with the first lieutenant of the division telling me the wrong information is out there, well, this is 5 years down the road. And they didn't want to take the responsibility to release that. I had to do that. So yeah, that information in the beginning really hurt the investigation, in my opinion.
I want to bring in our investigators. Mike King, I'll begin with you. Your thoughts tonight about the murder of Allie and how somehow we can lead to some leads in this case and an arrest and bring someone to justice here.
Mrs. Brueger, I mean, it's clear where Allie got her grit and determination. Thank you for being willing to come on. And as I look at this, Vinny, I think my first attention goes to the rural nature and the fact that someone's traveling around with a shotgun in their vehicle. Now, in some rural areas, this is normal. It's July, though, so it's not really in the middle of a hunting season. So again, we want to look at the behavior of the community and what's normal. But all of a sudden, for someone to bail out of a vehicle, if this were, for instance, an attempted abduction, and brandish a firearm in hopes of getting control, and Allie doesn't look like the kind of person that would put up with that and probably tried to flee. That's a big step to take 4 shots at someone, especially knowing now that this neighbor is in the area, hears the shots. In fact, hears the shots. It's such a close range that he ducks down for cover himself before he realizes that it's not him that's the target. That's troubling to me. So there's a lot to learn from the shotgun shells, the casings that are lying on the ground there. Were they all in one location, signifying that this shooter stood in one location, or was it in a succession like they were driving along? So there's a lot of questions that only law enforcement may know the answer to that pop into my mind first. But what was the type of pellet inside that shotgun? That's going to give us an indication of the person behind it and a little bit about their behavior. And then the other thing that really got to me was the fact that this road is not a thoroughfare. It is not a highway. It is a back road between two larger arteries. And that tells me that it either, if it is an opportunistic person who's looking for a victim to abduct, they're coming off of a major artery and looking and cruising back and forth. Somebody will remember something like that. And it's tragic because too often, especially in smaller communities, when a crime happens like this, our first response is that it's someone local rather than a transient moving through the area. When I say transient, someone coming off of the highway and cruising through the area just looking for a victim. That's kind of where I'm going right from the get-go.
Bobby Chacon, your thoughts tonight?
Well, I mean, what Mike just described was what we learned in homicide school. We've talked about this before, the connection of the perpetrator to either the victim or the location. If it's a random person and they have no connection to the victim, and they also don't have a connection to the location, it makes it infinitely harder to put them into the pool of suspects. This seems random, but it also highlights the importance of police and public information officers not talking too much and not saying so much early on. I know there's a clamoring for the press. Oftentimes people want to know, the public is hungering for information, but don't put out there stuff that could later on turn out to be not true. Because you, as Mrs. Brueger said, you can influence people, possible witnesses, people that are out there. They could be saying, oh, they're going to solve it in a couple of days. What I saw, what I heard, probably, it's probably nothing, because now the state police know they're onto something. So it could influence potential people out there. And I never wanted to give out a lot of information to the public initially in the early stage of investigation, particularly about the strength of a case. You don't want to say you have a strong case and you know who did it. I mean, you have to wait and let all that play out. It's very, very important. And especially in a case like this where they knew they had no eyewitnesses. You knew you were going to have to rely on people that told you they heard things or they saw things. There were going to be third connections, to this thing. I just think that, you can't make those kind of statements early on in an investigation. Now, through your program, Vinny, and through Mrs. Brueger, keeping, this case alive and keeping Ali out there and her memory out there. I understand she was a nurse. My mom's a nurse. My sisters are nurses. She wanted to be a writer, and she had aspirations. And I think that we need to keep her alive out there in the public, so that people do kind of think back and don't forget about this case and call in and say, you know what, I didn't think it was anything. And maybe it isn't, but here's what I heard, or here's what I saw, and because the public doesn't know what the police have. They don't know how all the pieces fit together. So they shouldn't assume what they saw or what they heard isn't relevant. It could be relevant. You don't know what the police have in their investigative files. Whatever it is, if it's even remotely possible to be connected to this case, you should pick up the phone and you should call.
All right, Bobby Chacon, Mike King, thank you so much for your insight. Nikki Brueger, thank you again for joining us, and we'll continue to highlight this story and do it until you get your justice that you and your husband deserve. Thanks so much, Nikki.
Thank you so much. We really appreciate it.
All right, folks, still ahead.
Allie's parents endured a police investigation that considered them the suspects. Her boyfriend, another suspect in the case, even suggested at one point that Allie's father was responsible for her death. Now, her father passed a polygraph, but the boyfriend had different results. He said on a national news program that his first polygraph test was inconclusive and that he failed the second test, remarking that he didn't believe he failed in reality and that the police must have just been saying all of this as an intimidation tactic. We've talked a lot on Profiling Evil about the victim risk continuum and the relationship that exists between the offender and the victim. I hope you'll go back and listen to our videos on that topic if you need to, but I want you to weigh in on whether you think this murder was a targeted event by somebody who knew Alexandra Brueger, or was she a victim of opportunity who was simply in the wrong place at the wrong time? Thanks for supporting Profiling Evil, where you can find us on YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter. And please take a moment, hit the like and subscribe button. And folks, we'll see you soon at the next crime scene.